You want me to go?
I don't care.
Go.
Sure.
All right. I kind of just want to talk about this because
Of course you do.
I have some thoughts
Hop
on this.
in.
Obviously, you guys know I'm a huge Nintendo fan.
Wait, really?
Really?
No.
Are you sure?
Really?
Probably my favorite company.
Wow.
No.
I'm
It's like saying
surprised.
Zach
Dude,
likes
my
Nintendo.
mind is
Right.
blown.
What?
I had no idea.
Yeah, so huge Nintendo fan. Play pretty much every game that comes out. I've been recently playing Dread. That game's awesome. And I know Zach probably really likes that game too. But
Zach goes, no way, Logan, me too.
something that happened this past week is Animal Crossing got some new update news, which is really sweet. I'm really excited for that. I'm probably going to jump back in Animal Crossing at some point, and you know, kind of play with the new update stuff and get the DLC stuff for it. But when they announced the DLC for it, they also announced the pricing of the expansion pass or expansion pack for the Switch Online. And so they added the DLC to it as well. So it's going to be N64, Genesis, and the expansion pack for Animal Crossing for pretty much $30 extra a year for the personal, like one person plan. And then I think it was 80, jumped up from 34 to 80 for the family plan.
I thought it was 70 for the family plan.
$79.99.
Okay, maybe that's what I saw.
So,
Because I actually thought about getting that for myself and my sister.
So see, my question for it is kind of like, what are your guys' thoughts on that? So it's basically a $30 price increase to get the N64 Genesis and the expansion pack for Animal Crossing. That's pretty much all that's in it. So I'll kind of give my thoughts last because I have some hot takes on it. But you guys want to go?
I mean, I definitely have an opinion on it, and it is, I don't see an issue with it. I don't know. I guess I don't see an issue with the price increase because you're getting a lot more. Like, honestly, the fact that it was their online stuff, which even though Nintendo doesn't have many online things, I mean, they got, obviously some, but it's not like you're playing Call of Duty or Battlefield or, whatever, like big online games on the Switch, right? But no, it's still like cheaper than anything else. I mean, I think Xbox Live is, if you just buy gold alone, is $60 a year, if I'm not mistaken.
60 should be.
Is it 60?
I think
and
so.
then if you get the Game Pass, which is I think the gold edition of that is $15 a month. And like that's obviously a lot more.
You also get much more than that.
Well, you get much. Well, I get that, but that's what I'm saying. Like it costs triple the price or so, like overall. Sure. I don't really see an issue with it because I'm sitting here. It just
depends on what you put value in, getting.
Yeah, see,
right?
and I think having a good emulator to play all those N64 games on, and they're going to add more games to it. It's not like they're just going to let it sit still. They're not going to have these 9 games and say nope, we're done now forever.
Well, they've already confirmed.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like they're adding more.
Just depends on how long they stagger it out.
I don't know. Like I would have paid $60 for these games by themselves, like as an emulated package. Like if they were like, hey, there's a cartridge that has all these Nintendo 64 games on it, and you can get new games as DLC for like $2 or $3 to play the new ones or whatever, almost like a la carte style or whatever. Like I would have been fine with that, and I would have done that. So this is no big deal to me at all.
It literally depends on the person. Because they're just selling nostalgia. That's it. Sure, those games are cool, whatever, but they're how old? Lots of them, and you're paying, like I said, 150% the price of the normal just to get a few more old games.
Yeah.
And the only difference is instead of playing it on your normal crap, you get a handheld version. Like nothing really has changed, which that's cool. I get that.
Yeah.
And if you love Nintendo and you love that old stuff, like it's worth it for you. But you know my qualms with Nintendo.
I'm pretty sure there's quite a few of them on the dump trackers behind you, which hasn't been updated in weeks.
It's same old crap. Like and don't get me wrong, I don't hate Nintendo. I love it. I love it to a point where I want them to, go a little bit above and beyond and stop being so freaking lazy.
I would love for some point for you and Zach and Logan to sit down and have because those two love Nintendo and everything about it, and you are picking them apart at every corner, and I love it. Like I think having just a conversation
it's
with
just two sides of the same coin.
No, it is, and I just think seeing you guys hash some things out would be
so much potential.
Yeah.
Like understand the culture of everything, but it's pure laziness is what it is. Like spend some freaking money.
Hold on. So in the chat, I wonder if they'll include more DLCs with it. And Silverglass, my God, I read that as dicks.
Interesting.
You never know. They might.
Weston, what
It
about
is
you?
Nintendo.
What is your kind of hot take on that?
I do believe that it's worth some of that money. I just don't know if it's worth a full $30
Yeah.
more. You know, like if it was $10, definitely. I would gladly flip that. Like $30 a year, definitely. But I feel like the expansion pass that they're pushing with it, I don't actually play Animal Crossing.
Yeah.
Like it's just not one of the games that I play.
I really
No.
don't
So
play
I
it
feel like
much
it's a
either.
waste for me to have to pay all that stuff for a DLC I'm never going to use.
Yep.
Another
know?
another thought on it, like, is it's not necessarily like the end price, like $50 a year or whatever, is not that much. I get that. It's just in perspective of what it was, how much, what they added, and how much more they, you know, like I said, 150%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Is
Yeah.
that too much?
Yeah.
I think
That's
so.
what I was kind
I
of
think-
getting at. Like if they would have
in
just done
relativity,
like
it's too
like,
much.
I could see
I
if they
think.
had a second option where
It's still
instead
not
of
a
having
lot,
the
but-
like the DLC, you just got the like N64 and Genesis sets for like $10-15 even. I could
Yep.
see that play out. I could bear with that much more easily. But 150% increase for not even that many games. Like yeah, they're going to expand as they go, but right now there's just not enough to actually make that worth it.
Well,
right
what
now.
did it start at? Like,
Started at
started at
$20.
$20
Okay,
bucks
a
what
year.
like what was it? Was it
So it
just
was the-
classic and like
It was
SNES?
NES,
or-
SNES,
NES.
and then like cloud. You could get cloud saves from it, and then like just
So,
online.
so very at the beginning, it was
Yeah.
just
Did
just
they even have
classic
the-
and SNES for $20?
Do they even
Yep.
have the NES and
What
the Super
came
Nintendo?
after that?
yes.
Just
Then they
anything.
just added a bunch of games to
So
them.
just games. All
They,
right.
well, they added the SNES.
So if
later, but
anything,
they haven't
like-
Well, they
actually-
did a little later,
But
and
Yeah,
I
they
didn't even
just-
jump on until they added the
You
SNES.
add the same amount that you added in the beginning for the same price. Like
Yeah.
that's what essentially just addition what it should be, I think.
Yeah.
But like I said, it's at the end of the day, with everything else in the market, it's not that much money.
And I also find
No,
it hard
it's
to
just the
call it
principle of
an
it.
expansion pass when it costs more than the base was.
well, it's
you know?
called the expansion pack because of the N64.
No, I get that. It's called,
I like that.
but
like that.
expansion gives you the idea that it's just
Yeah.
additional to,
No, yeah, I
which means
get
it
you.
should not cost more than the base.
Yep.
But yet they're more than increasing it. You know
Yeah.
what I'm saying?
Yeah. No, I get you. So,
So I find issue with the
Yeah.
naming convention.
Oh, and
Yeah.
one last thing,
I get
too.
what they're
Yeah.
doing, but at the same time.
One last thing before Logan gets into it as well is just because this is what they have announced right now doesn't mean that later we won't get more for the same thing. Because like
Sure.
when it first came out,
Yeah.
it was just the NES, and then they added the Super Nintendo.
No,
later. So
I'm still convinced
maybe
Game
with
Boy's
this.
coming.
Well, I was gonna say maybe with this they add either Game Boy or GameCube. Like
Yeah,
like there's
sure. I think-
potential they're gonna add other things.
and
in
they
it.
will.
So,
They will.
GameCube's
They
pushing.
will.
yeah, and they will. So I mean, if you think about it that way, like you spend the money now, you get that later. Like let's say,
But no
Yeah,
one thinks
but-
about the future, Jordan.
We're paying
Oh,
the
we're
money
talking about
now.
it right now.
We're paying for it right now. And am
I
I
don't
getting
see
that
an
future
issue.
value right now?
I
Like I
don't see
said,
an
it's just
issue.
person by person basis.
It's person
whether
by
you think that's
person
worth
what
it
you
or
view
not.
as
Yeah.
worth.
So my
Yeah.
kind of thoughts on this are, I really actually put a lot of thought in this because when I was watching the Direct live, and I saw that, and then I don't think they actually put the price on the Direct. I
No.
can't
No,
remember. I think
they said
tweeted
price
it.
coming soon.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, they tweeted it later that day, and I was like, really, 50? And I really was kind of upset because I was like, okay, $10-15, like that's probably what it's gonna be. And then I saw a $30 increase. I was like, I don't know if this is worth it. Well, then I kind of really thought about it, and it's honestly like it is a case by case. It's obviously if you're a huge Animal Crossing fan, absolutely get it. If you are planning on buying this DLC pack, it is a no-brainer. I think because you're getting for $5 more, you're getting a library of N64 games and Genesis games, which I don't know. I'm a huge Genesis fan. I've never played Genesis,
Sonic.
but I know, yeah, that's really all I've played. But I know that there is a huge following for Genesis, and that is a kind of big deal for some people. But N64, alone is, if I'm getting that for $5 more, I'm gonna do it. But yeah, if you're not playing
Nintendo Insider Zach.
but if you're
He's got
not
the
playing,
info.
if you're not playing the or Animal Crossing, then it is kind of is it worth it? And to me, I kind of look at it as obviously, do you play in 64 games? First off,
Yeah.
if you don't play them, then there's no point.
Right.
But if you play them, I still think it's worth it if you play at least 3 of those games, because if we look at it now. the cheapest way to get those games is the Wii U eShop, and they're $10 in the Wii U eShop. So if you want to play, say, Mario Kart, Zelda, and or Super Mario 64, and you don't have All Stars, that's not an option. If you want to play those 3 games, there's your worth right there, because the alternative is buying an N64 and then buying the games for it, or buying the games themselves if you have an N64, and that's going to be more than $30 for each game for those big titles. And so
you also own that data though once you do it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and I get that, but like you're also, so I look at it that way too. I think, do I wish it was a bit cheaper? Yes. But I think in the long run, it's going to be worth it. And I think I like the idea that it is an expansion pack, and it's not just, this is the new price, and you have to get this to be online. Like, no, it's an option. Like, you don't have to upgrade. And I know a lot of people probably aren't, because I know a lot of people fed up with it.
I didn't even know that.
No, it's an option.
I honestly didn't even know that. I seriously.
No,
Okay.
Yeah, you do not have to get the
then why complain?
So another theory or an idea I have is with the Animal Crossing expansion pack. I think it kind of opens the door for, this is how Nintendo's going to do their DLC going forward. Is like, say every year, every 6 months or whatever like a big Nintendo game comes out. Like, so Breath of the Wild 2, right? That had a DLC pack, the like Champions Ballad and all that stuff, and it was like $25. My kind of theory is, like, as this like kind of thing progresses, they're gonna switch it out for the next DLC pack for the next big Nintendo game, and then it's just kind of stack on top of it. Either it's gonna stack or they're gonna flip it, or I feel like they'll stack it.
Stacks, that could be nasty.
Yeah.
It's not gonna stack. There's no way.
Well, because I'm thinking, like, it'd be kind of weird if they're just like, all right, so it's now Breath of the Wild 2's turn to be a part of it. So if you don't have the expansion pack for Animal Crossing and you still want to play it, you gotta buy it separately.
No, I think it's gonna be kind of like a Game Pass deal at that point, where it's like, except with DLC. It's like you buy. So with Game Pass, you spend $16 a month, you get all the games. With this, you spend $30 extra a year, you get all the DLC, but you got to buy the games, which I
guess it also
will
could
they
be
do
like,
that though?
That's how I see it.
They'd lose money on that.
It could also be PlayStation, where it's like their PlayStation Plus games, where it's like you can get the games when they come out that month. But if, say, like next month I start doing PlayStation Plus and I start my membership and I missed out on the games last month, I just don't get those free games. But if I had the opportunity then and I got them, then they were free and they're in my library. So I could see that too. Like, so say you get this expansion pass right away, then you just get that Animal Crossing DLC, and then say Breath of the Wild comes out later, you get to keep the DLC, but if you say join when Breath of the Wild DLC comes out, then you don't get both. You just get the Breath of the Wild one, and it just kind of goes that way. I can see that way too. I can see that way too. But yeah, so that's also another option, because I do think it is kind of weird to just have one deal. Obviously, I know Animal Crossing is huge, and a lot of people have played it, and this DLC is a big thing because it's adding a lot to the game. But I just don't get why Animal Crossing? Like, why is that one special to be a part of this pack?
That's just one that's coming out right now.
It's just time frame.
It's when it came out.
That's what I'm thinking of. It's time frame, and it's just like, okay, so this is the one they want to add, and I think that's why, because they're going to kind of transition into this DLC system where they put it in this expansion pack.
Which is why I don't care. It's like, especially now that I found out that I didn't know that it was $30 like an ad, like it was a choice. I thought it was they were bumping all of it up.
Yep.
No.
So at that point, no one has a right to complain. I don't think at all. Like, if you don't want it, then don't get it. Like, it's not affecting what you currently have. It's just, hey, do you want these games? Okay, well then you have to pay the money, which is no different than buying the games anyways.
Yeah.
So at that point, who freaking cares? I don't see an issue with it at all now. That even makes it more clear that you've
actually
complain.
oversimplified this entire process a little bit, in the fact that, so you have your base set. Some people just don't want to pay that extra amount for the DLC, and they would just rather have the N64 games and the Sega Genesis games. What if they just wanted those and not the DLC?
Well, then you get 2 emulators that are going to keep growing for $15 a piece.
I get that.
Which I don't see.
I'm just trying to play the devil's advocate on the other side here.
That actually does kind of go into another point I want to talk about. Is I've kind of gone past the issue of like me not liking the idea of it. I think I am kind of more on the boat of it's fine now. Like, obviously, I wish it was cheaper, but I'm okay with it. Like, I get it now. But the one thing I am kind of still worried about is how often are we getting N64 games? Because they've said there are now, I think
Knowing
there's
Nintendo,
7 or
super
9.
staggered.
Yeah. See, that's the thing, because say we don't get Banjo till October of next year. Say it takes that long for these games to come out, because literally, like, that's what happened with the NES and SNES. Like, we still don't have some of the big games on that SNES. Earthbound, I talk about that a lot, but I'll upset
Especially
I am about
if price
that.
stays the same, they're not gaining money
Yeah.
by porting
And
games
so
over.
that's my thing is, like, okay, we get 7 sweet games right off the bat, and they've announced Majora's Mask and like Banjo and stuff. But how long are we going to have to wait for those? Because with the SNES and NES, they've taken their sweet time.
Well, then at that point, then I'm not happy with the value I get for the extra $30 now, so I'm going to wait until I am happy with it.
Yeah, but I just like,
I don't know.
I
don't
feel
see
like
an
at
issue
that
with any of
point
this.
though, it's like, they're just losing money. Like, why not just put these games out? If people are just gonna wait, then just put them out. And like, I get you want to have a consistent update and like good games coming out, and like I was on board with that with the NES and SNES, but after like the first probably 6 or 7 months, they just started putting like really crap games on there and leaving out some big titles like Earthbound, like I think pretty much all the big RPGs are being left out of it, which I get some, because I know a lot of it has to do with licensing and a bunch of it's with Square Enix, but I still think Square Enix and Nintendo work well together, and they've done it before. Like, they can do it now.
Yeah, but what does Square Enix get for it is the question.
That's true.
Because Nintendo's not going to get much for it.
Yeah.
And they're going to have to pay out the butt to Square Enix for all the rights to port these things.
Yeah, that's true.
So that's why they don't do it for the most part.
Just give me Earthbound. That's all I'm asking for. I just want Earthbound. I want to play that on my Switch. But yeah, so that is an issue I have too, is like, what are we looking at for like how many games we get a month or whatever? Like, I don't know. I think it's definitely, because also they trickled it down too. So like, are we just gonna get 1 a month or whatever when they do it? Because the NES had 3, then the SNES only had 2, and so now I'm guessing N64, since they're bigger 3D games, whatever, they're probably gonna be 1 every month they do it. And so
even that though, for an extra $30 a year is not bad.
Yeah, I just like, for
if
me,
if you want to play that stuff,
yeah, I think it definitely does depend on what you want to play. Like, if you don't care for N64, obviously do not get this, because it's not going to be worth it.
Yeah.
If you play Animal Crossing and you want to play N64 games, absolutely get it. It's a heck of a deal. It definitely depends on what you like out of Nintendo, what kind of stuff you try to get out of Nintendo, and if those things are what you want, then obviously get it. But at the end of the day, like, it is an expansion pack. You do not have to get it. You still got access to all the online features. None of that's being taken away and put in the expansion pack. Literally, you're just getting the 3 things in the expansion pack. And
and that right there, what you just said is my exact reason for thinking that some people are just complaining about the price to complain, because they're not happy
that is definitely an issue.
and for everything.
Yeah,
I know, and that's what I'm saying. Like,
there's a lot of people.
I think people are making a way bigger deal over the $30
I totally get
than
that.
it needs to be.
I totally agree with that,
Sure.
because
there's always gonna be
there's
people like
there's
that.
honestly a lot of people have like disliked that video and all that stuff, and they're like, oh, it should only be like $5. And I'm like,
see, those people are idiots.
Yeah,
so.
well, but like, that's a ton of people, and I'm like, hold on now, like, I get you want this cheaper, but at the same time, you have to think of it from Nintendo's perspective.
Yeah,
they're selling these games currently.
They're a company.
They still have the Wii U eShop running. They're selling these games individually for $10 a piece. They're not going to give you an entire catalog of these games for $5 a month extra. That just doesn't make financial sense for them. So the absolute least I was thinking it was going to be was $10 more. So, I mean, it's just, I don't know. It's, people just need to understand, like, they are a business, and yes, Nintendo does make some crap decisions sometimes, and I know we've talked about that several times, and they do some kind of scummy stuff. But at the end of the day, these are their properties, and they know the value of their properties. They know the value of.
If anyone knows the value of their own stuff, it's Nintendo.
Exactly. They know the value of Ocarina of Time. They know how highly acclaimed that game is. They know Mario 64. They know their games, and they know that they know what they can push the value of to get the most out of people. And I know that sucks sometimes, but as a business, that's what they got to do.
They're actually great at running a business. It's just
it
terrible
just sucks
for everyone
it just
outside
sucks
of
for everybody
themselves.
else.
True.
But
the business model is not, my favorite, but
yeah.
I understand it.
Yeah.
But just going a little bit deeper with what you said, like I said, it's selling nostalgia. Is it good or for you, or you think good in general? Maybe just with them selling it, maybe a 30-year-old game for more money without even the remastered title on it.
Yeah,
because they don't do anything. It's just an old game
I definitely have been
that maybe you purchased a long time ago.
No, I like the idea of having like I would like more like kind of remakes and stuff, but at the end of the day, like it's the older games just on newer consoles, but it's
Let's be real,
also
if they remade it, the graphics wouldn't change anyway.
But it's also the like well, I do like Ocarina of Time 3D and Majora's Mask 3D look really good.
I get it.
Well, part of it though too is a game is not just the mechanics like that. Part of it is that aesthetic that makes it the game that we love. So if they change it too much, it stops being the same game.
And I also look at it as like if you want to play
that.
these games, right? Like it's you're gonna be shelling out a lot more money. And Nintendo just wants to give access to these games, and I know they probably don't do it the cheapest way that people like, but they're giving access to these games. And now we're getting games that haven't been ported on anything in a long time. We're getting F-Zero again, and a lot of people are really excited about that, to play online with that. That's another thing. You get online capability for the first time with all of these games because they're N64 games, and you're also just getting the ability to play these games on the go. And I think
that's what they're selling.
That is a big point. And so, I think they are the same games that they're just reselling for $30 price tag with a collection, but at the same time, like, these games have value still. These games I still like will recommend people to play. I tell people all the time, if they want to get into Zelda, play Ocarina of Time. You should play Mario 64. Like, all of these games are super.
I recommend A Link to the Past.
Super impactful.
I recommend Link to the Past
that's
as well.
Like going back to NES or SNES, like Earthbound, Link's Awakening, Super Metroid.
It's just a thought process of whether
I definitely
how
think
much money it's worth to pay again.
Yes,
for
absolutely.
a 30-year-old game that has no difference.
No, I definitely think it depends on the game, but I think Nintendo does it best because Nintendo has the IPs to do it with. I think if Xbox did this the same way, or PlayStation, like Sony did this the same way, it would not be as good because they don't have those. Like, obviously, like Sony's got Crash and Spyro, and you got Halo for Microsoft and stuff, but like they don't have a Zelda, they don't have a Mario, they don't have Pokemon, they don't have these
iconicism is not
huge IPs that just sell so well, and that's Nintendo. That's Nintendo's brand, is their legacy, and these characters they've made and these worlds they've made, and they want to stick to that, and they just want to keep selling those, which I'm fine with because
I leave that.
I like being able to play these games because I get nostalgic a lot of times. Like, I never grew up on N64, but I love playing N64 games and going back and playing them over and over. And so, I don't know. That's just kind of my thoughts, but it is a good question, I think. But it's also
just something to talk about.
Yeah.
Yeah. And one last comment I'll make on it. Yes, it is also a lot of money. We're questioning how much they're going to add, but do realize that by paying this money, they're going to see that there's value in these virtual consoles, and that will keep them adding games to it.
That's true, yeah.
If nobody invests in it, they will see that it's not worthwhile, and they'll stop adding games to it altogether.
Yep.
So by having more people actually invest in this, they're actually going to speed up the process in which they add the games to get more people in.
Yep.
Does that make sense?
It's data collection.
See, you got that point, and then you have another side where people are like, oh, well, like kind of like what I mentioned earlier. If you don't think it's a good value for you, then don't get it. So all these people, well, I'm not going to buy it, and that's going to force them to add games until it's a good value. And
that's not actually going to work.
That's not the mindset that will work. But
it's the more people who buy it, the more games they're going to add to keep them on.
It just throws people in the in that third field where they want this, but none of the games out are what they want. So they're not going to get it now and pay for nothing that they don't want. But things that doesn't make them want to put more games on it, later on.
Well, that's kind of what happened with No More Heroes. Like, I'm not a huge fan. I've never played them, but they had like the No More Heroes. I can't remember what it's called, but it was like right before 3 they came out with it, and it was like a big deal. But it wasn't like a No More Heroes game, and a lot of people were kind of upset by it, and a lot of people weren't buying it at first. Well, and then the director, who's like the main guy of the No More Heroes franchise, said like, hey guys, like if you want a No More Heroes 3, like you're gonna have to buy this game because it needs to show like this IP still carries weight because it's been a while since the last one, and sure enough, people started buying it, and we got No More Heroes 3 this year, and so that's how if you want something done, you need to invest in games. That's why Metroid.
You gotta talk with your wallet when it comes to this.
That's why Metroid fans right now, we are all saying buy Metroid Dread, because Metroid has been in this slump of we've not had a 2D Metroid game in
show
15,
popularity
16 years.
and money,
Yep.
income for the company, and they'll create more of that.
Yep.
Which I like that bit. I do.
Yeah.
But Nintendo does have a strict logic to it. Like, it might be a logic that we don't like. I don't like it that much, but I understand it.
Yeah.
If you're thinking of a people group or a company, Japan is all about that strict business model.
Yeah.
They know it, and they live by it, and it works for what they want it to be.
It does.
But I just want to throw that out there for anybody who is out there watching this.
Yeah.
If you're going to side with either of them, side with getting it so that they do see value in it and add those other games.
Yep.
That was just kind of a rebuttal to your question, will they add these or how long it'll be?
Yeah.
The more people who do this, the
Absolutely.
faster they will add them.
Absolutely. Because
So that's the business model that they have to follow.
why put effort into something nobody's
Exactly.
going to buy? That's why we're saying buy Metroid Dread, because if
There's
we don't,
reasons to it.
So-
if they don't, then they're not going to develop the games
but,
anymore.
I mean, you're exactly right. But that being said, we've been on this for over 25 minutes now.
All right, yeah.
I think we should probably
That's
switch
fair.
topics.